Daniel, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Matt?
I'm doing well, thanks. So, what's this off season been like for you as far as I think John Lynch said recently, kind of expected you to be competing for that right guard spot. So, is that where you're really honing in on?
Yeah, definitely taking a good amount of reps at right guard when I'm practicing by myself. But mainly, I'm just ready to be starting at any position and ready to go anywhere. Still focusing on all five positions. But yeah, no, I definitely take a few more reps at right guard, and then also trying to focus on what I can do to be better at that position specifically a little bit more, and then what I can do to be better at all five positions as a whole.
Hey Dan, it's Jennifer Lee Chan. How are you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Jennifer?
Good. Hey, you obviously have a new addition on your line, Trent Williams. What have you seen from him so far in meetings and watching him on film?
I've seen that he's just a total professional in how he goes about himself. I watched a few clips of his tape, and he's definitely a beast, a great player, and he's gonna do a great job for us.
Hey Dan, this is David Lombardi. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. I saw on Instagram you made a nice trip before all the shutdowns out to Hungary, out to Europe. I was wondering how that trip went and if you could go through the whole purpose of it and all that happened.
Yeah, so I actually got Ben Garland was able to hook me up with this group, AFWB, and Gary Barnage and D'Angelo Williams founded this group. It's a nonprofit that takes NFL players overseas to different countries and just kind of teaches football to countries that don't get to see it firsthand as much. So we got to go over there and go over techniques, coach a little bit, a few of their players, and teach them a little bit more about the game. And so it was a great trip to experience that. It was one of my first times out of the country because I grew up in San Diego and Tijuana doesn't count, but it was the first time out of the country and got to experience amazing culture, and then got to see some pretty rich history over there. So it was a great trip.
Hey Dan, this is Tracy Sandler. This off season in quarantine, can you talk a little bit what that's been like mentally for you? And is it something that you've been talking to your teammates and other players around the league about?
Yeah, it's definitely been different. But I think the 49ers and a lot of teams around the league have done a good job. We've been focusing on Zoom meetings, and it's been a good chance to still get everybody together, to get to see each other's faces, and to just go over film, and we're kind of diving more into how we analyze plays, each person individually a little bit more, so we can see how each person sees a play. So we've been able to dive in a lot more in depth, just kind of more on the mental side of it, which is pretty interesting. Because sometimes we don't always get that amount of time with the strict rules on when we can be in the building and when we can't. So it's definitely been different, but it's still going well, and I think we've done the best we can with the circumstances.
Hey, Dan, it's Matt Barrows with The Athletic. Just wondering about that trip to Hungary and the familiarity factor you found with, I assume that it's young people that you were working with in Hungary, and just how familiar are they with NFL football there in Eastern Europe?
They're definitely familiar. There was a lot of fans from a lot of different teams. So they're huge fans of the NFL, and I think everywhere we went, there was a lot of people that knew who we were and were excited about it. The ages that were playing football over there are kind of ranges. There's a lot of young kids, but there's a lot of older people that also play. They don't have that big of a group actual playing football there. They have a lot of fans, but they're pretty much anybody is kind of playing the sport for them. And so they're definitely coming along, and it was pretty interesting just to see how many people were actually that actually cared that much about it, the NFL over there, and loved the game.
Hey, Daniel, Grant Cohn, Sports Illustrated. Where do you feel you can make your biggest strides in year 2 in the NFL?
Just focusing on a lot of technique and working on specific things to each play. When you understand the playbook more and understand what Kyle wants you to do and what the offensive line coaches are asking you to do, you can just get better at what you do on each play to make the best block and to make the block work for how the play is designed to work. So focusing on that, and then also just technique. I think no matter where you are in the game, technique can always be better and improve. So focusing a lot on that, especially in some of the pass pro things, just to fix everything that I can from moving outside and moving inside. It's a little different. So just knowing all the different things I got to do for what position I'm at.
Daniel, it's Matt Mayoko again. You mentioned earlier about getting more reps at right guard. This time of the year, what does that consist of exactly? And how big were those 2 games that you started and played the full game at right guard in getting you kind of acclimated to that spot?
Definitely the 2 games were huge to play those games at that spot, because it gets you more live reps at it. There's a certain point where practice and live reps are definitely completely different, just because of the speed and the nature in which you hit a little bit. In practice, you're trying to simulate it the best you can while also trying to take care of your team. So it sometimes is a little different than when it is in a game. And also, scout team, they do a hell of a job, but they can't always emulate exactly what the defense is doing that we're practicing for each week. So definitely being in the game helps you get more comfortable for what's going on. And definitely the reps now are definitely a lot different since we're not currently at OTAs. We're not able to practice, but I've actually, my family has helped me a lot. I've been trying to do the drills the best I can. And I've had my sister and my brother-in-law, they've been helping me do a few drills.
Okay. Hi, Dan. It's Jennifer again. How have they, just following up on that, how have your sister and your family members been helping you with drills? And then also, this is the first time we've talked to you since Joe Staley retired. So if you could share kind of your favorite Joe Staley memory and what he meant to the team.
Oh, yeah. So for my sister and brother-in-law, they've actually been helping me. Sometimes as offensive linemen, we'll take med balls and we'll work on pass drills, and then someone can throw the med ball at you. And then you can practice your punching and things like that to simulate a defense, because those have a little bit of weight behind it. And so I've been having them help me with that. And then, of course, I don't have any bags. So there's sometimes I'll have them hold the med ball and I'll try to do other drills off of that. But they've definitely been very supportive and helped me the best way they could. And then for Joe Staley, no, he's an amazing player. He's done so much for this team, this organization, in this city. It's definitely going to be a huge loss to not have him. But hopefully he can still get in the building. He'll be around as much as possible, I'm sure. He's one of those guys that just love the game. So he's definitely going to be a big part of it. And one of my best memories for Joe, when I first got to the 49ers, him and Mike Persons were just great leaders for us, and totally took us in and taught us a lot. But they instilled confidence in a lot of the young guys. They every time you did something good, those 2 guys were one of the first 2 to come up to you and say how good of a job it was, how good of a player you were, and definitely support you along the way. So that was one of the best things that Joe's done for us, is just what he does for young guys. I know he told me multiple times after games or even after practices early on that, hey, you're a good player, keep doing what you're doing, and things will work. So that was awesome to have.
Dan, it's David for one more about the Hungary trip. I'm just wondering about the picture with the bird. What was that about, that huge bird that's on your arm?
Oh, so yeah, that was a falcon, and we were at one of the castles that we visited, and there was a guy dressed up as I guess a falconer or whatever, that basically control like the messages and stuff. So he was out there and kind of like one of those tourist things where if you wanted to sit down and take a picture with a bird, you could, and so that was a pretty cool chance to sit down and take a picture with that falcon. But it was also in front of one of the statues of one of their first kings in Hungary, and so it was just a really cool history learning event, and one of the things that we got to do, as well as going to teach football over there.
Hey, Daniel, Kyle Posey, Niners Nation. I was wondering what the biggest challenge was going from the AAF to the NFL, and are you modeling yourself, or have you been watching any specific player just to kind of model your game after?
Yeah, no, the difference in the AAF to the NFL, of course, is just a little bit more of the speed and strength. The AAF definitely had tremendous players. I think we've proved it just on the Niners alone with how many players we've had from the AAF. And DeMontre Moore was one of the guys that actually I was a teammate with in the AAF, and he was a great player to go against and to learn from. And it kind of goes back to what I was talking about with the live reps versus the practice reps. It was definitely able to help me improve my game, taking a lot more live reps in games that are different than the practice reps, and to be going against someone like DeMontre every practice that was focusing on getting back to the NFL. So he was going a lot harder in practice and stuff to help you improve and be a better player. For the modeling my game after, there's a lot of players in the NFL that are just great players to watch, and so I kind of just focus on the teams that fit Kyle Shanahan's offensive scheme wise, because I like to watch those teams, because our zone is a lot different than most people in the NFL that run zone schemes. So I try my best to find teams that would run play similar to ours and similar to where we run our scheme. So it's a little not as much on the players, but more on the scheme of it. But I definitely there's a lot of great players you can learn from in different ways and see what they do that helps them. But every player is every player is very different. So sometimes that doesn't always help to just watch one specific player to do exactly what he does. But it does help to see what he's doing well and what might be able to help you.